Hello, welcome. Today I'm sharing some of my favorite freezer meals. And for those that don't know me yet, I'm Haley Kim, a working mom of two, sharing family meal and motherhood content. If that sounds interesting to you, please like and subscribe to follow along. This week I'm going to be doubling all of the meals I'm making for dinner and freezing half of them. I've got to go out of town in a few weeks for a really long weekend, and I find the hardest part about having kids on your own and taking care of them is making the meals. So I hope having these freezer meals ready to go will make it so much easier on my husband. I did this in my kind of the last month or two of my pregnancy for my second baby, and it was so nice to have those freezer meals in those first 1 to 2 months. And I found the easiest way to do it is just to double the meal that I'm making. Let's hope this works out and I'm actually able to make it this much food. First up is a creamy chicken pasta with broccoli. This is a super easy go-to meal from scratch that I make often. For the freezer meal, I just freeze the creamy white chicken sauce, and my husband can quickly cook the pasta and broccoli the night of.
My pop stroller.
I love listening to his voice when editing these videos. But while I get the water boiling for the pasta, my son is helping me with the broccoli, and of course a few taste tests were necessary. And then I move on to peppering the chicken. I put a lot of pepper on this and fry it in butter, making sure not to overcook it since it does have to go back in the sauce later for a bit. And then I roast the broccoli at about 20 minutes in the mini oven, which makes this meal come together in about 30 minutes total, which I love. I would use more chicken next time because it was not quite enough for a double recipe, but after the chicken is cooked, I take it out and deglaze the pan with some stock and scrap up all the good stuff, and then throw in a bunch of onion. Again, this is double recipe, and get that to brown. Then about 1 cup of cream and milk goes in with about a third a cup of flour. I let that simmer for a little bit after I've mixed it all together while the pasta is cooking. After adding the chicken back in to cook for a few minutes, I save about half of the sauce to freeze before adding in the broccoli and pasta for dinner that night. Super easy meal that freezes so well. I used to think of freezer meals as meals that had to be pretty much all ready to go and ready, or you had to dump it in a slow cooker, but these kind are actually my favorite. It's easy to add something fresh and it still tastes like a meal you cooked that day. And those kind of more traditional slow cooker meals seem to all start tasting the same after a while. The next day we planted our garden, which is super exciting to finally see the plants in, and my dad made this delicious crab and shrimp boil for us. It might be my family's favorite meal of all time, and if only I could make it taste good as a freezer meal. The next meal is tacos with homemade tortillas. I'm making all the time-consuming ingredients now, as the toppings can easily be prepared later. And I love sour cream, and this is the first time I tried to make it from scratch, and it was super easy. Mine didn't turn out quite as thick as I like it. However, my toddler really loved it, and he doesn't usually like the store-bought kind, so I'm gonna try it again. Next time I'll let it set out a full 24 hours and either try a higher fat cream that I found from Azure Standard or a cultured whole buttermilk. I'll link both as neither were easy to find. I also read that it would work better with raw cream due to the cultures present, but unfortunately I can't find any. So if anyone knows of a place in North Carolina, please let me know. These tortillas are a family favorite. You just take melted butter and mix it into the flour until it's pretty much incorporated. Add in the salty water, mix together, and then knead. Here my son had been playing with my salt and pepper, so I had a little bit of pepper mixed in too. I love finding these little signs of him that I know he did in secret. After kneading it a few times, I let it sit out until dinner and then just cut it into pieces and roll it out and cook. Now my boys are at home all the time, and it can get really overstimulating, chaotic, and messy, as I'm sure any mother knows. However, I'm really trying to embrace this time and phase together, as we didn't get nearly the amount of time together previously when he was in daycare. And I really try to get him involved in the kitchen anytime he's interested. It helps build so much confidence, and it's such a critical life skill. I got this little poem from his Sunday school class that they made during Mother's Day with this cute little handprints on it saying, "Sometimes you get discouraged because I'm so small. always leaving handprints on the windows and the wall. The years will pass so quickly and I'll soon be grown like you. All the little fingerprints will surely fade from view.
Perfectly.
How much that way? How much that way?
2,
2?
4, 7, 8, and then 10, and then 97.
And while I know these years pass so quickly, it just helps to be reminded sometimes. While these tortillas were not the right size or pretty and it probably took double the time to do this, I know I'll look back fondly and miss these really messy moments together. I try to keep that in mind when I'd rather just do things like this myself because it's so much easier, but I know it's gonna be a blink of an eye before he's a teenager and wants nothing to do with me or the kitchen. The hardest part about making those tortillas is rolling them out because they get sticky real quick, so you really have to keep enough flour on your surface and on your pan. And I always take a few wax papers or parchment papers, cut them in half, and then lay them in between so that I can pretty much roll all of them out and then cook them all at once in 2 cast iron pans. One day I'll learn to take all the meat out I need from the freezer and defrost it in the fridge, but here I forgot to do that, so I'm just pretty much cooking it partially frozen, the beef, but it actually works out pretty well and turns out okay. I love cooking these tortillas too. I just love the process, even though it is a little time consuming. One tip is to have like a glass of water and a paper towel next to you, so when it looks like they're starting to burn really easily, just kind of wipe it out with a wet paper towel and that will really help. And at the end, when I'm all done, I go ahead and clean the cast irons by just throwing a glass of water in, letting it kind of burn up and wiping it down, and then you don't have to worry about doing that after the meal. Now for the taco meat, I would usually add like normal taco seasoning in, add a little water and let it simmer and cook in together. Do that, but just reduce the seasonings. I just add a little bit of cumin, oregano, just a small amount of chili powder, and I find my kids like it a lot better. My husband can make some really delicious Korean soup that my kids like, so for lunch I just have one option that I'm going to give them: sausage and a veggie breakfast casserole that goes with a little side salad. I just cook some onions, mushrooms, and bell peppers and fry those up, make some half and half, and toast a ton of bread. I make this pretty toasty, but not as toasty as I would if it was just for me. My kids, especially the baby, doesn't really like too crunchy bread. Then I always put in a shredded zucchini into my breakfast casseroles. It just goes so well and adds some nutrition without my kids really noticing it. And next time I'll add 2 since this was doubled. And add the half and half to the eggs and just assemble. To make this easy on me, I did, fry up the ground pork the night before, so it went very quickly. I fully cooked both of them and we had one for lunch that day. It was so good. I thought we would have leftovers, but we did not. And I took the other one once cooked, wrapped it in some cling wrap and then tin foil, and put it in the freezer for later. Now, the last is a labor of love, but it is so delicious. If I ever make lasagna, I always double it, given the effort, and am very pleased when I get to pull it out of the freezer and have a delicious dinner for what feels like then no effort. The night before, I made the meat veggie red sauce with pork and ground beef. I did pulse the beef a few times in the food processor, and this really makes a difference. It is so good. I didn't do it once, and I could tell, and I find my boys really eat more of the sauce and thus the meat like this. I cooked all the veggies and pulsed them too, using the food processor twice, and this recipe kind of made it worth it and made me actually want to pull it out. Sometimes I don't because it feels like such an effort sometimes. I add a whole lot of whole canned tomatoes and a can of tomato sauce and let that simmer for about 20 minutes while breaking up those tomatoes and just enjoying a little bit of music. Looking back, I would have added the meat into the sauce last night because this was a pain, lesson learned. But with the red sauce done, I don't know why this feels like such a gift, even though I just spent last night doing it, but it does. Like during the day, not having one thing to do just helps. So I moved just straight into making the white sauce. It's a lot of melted butter whisked in with flour and then milk. I saved some of the white sauce actually for the white sauce and the meat for pizza I was going to make the next night, and it was so good to have a white sauce pizza again. Usually I'm just making red sauce, so I don't know, just having one of two, and it didn't take much effort. You know, it was just saving this from the night before. Just another idea, you know, just to stretch some of the homemade ingredients you spend time on. Now, I always try to grate my own cheese, as shredded cheese often contains stabilizers while block cheese generally does not, and plus I just think they taste better too. One little tip is to just rinse your noodles off really well. Don't have to worry about putting oil or anything on them. Just rinse them in cold water and cool them off, and then they will not stick together, which is really important here where it takes some time to assemble it all. My favorite part is assembling it all: noodles, red sauce, white sauce, and then cheese times 3. And I have a little helping hand here. With the lasagna in the oven, we were able to go on a little afternoon walk before dinner, which was lovely. My son picked out some flowers and came home insisting on making his own little flower arrangement. It was the cutest thing.
Good. For everyone. Now it's gonna say brown. Cake.
I really thought we would have leftovers for lunch the next day, but everyone went back for seconds. It really is so good. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more.